Today we are talking about a ghost story. Ooh, I like a good ghost story, but this one's like actually really freaky, which is why I want to talk about it. We are talking about the bizarre case of the Indiana home that one priest called a portal to demons. That doesn't sound great, does it? Like, I wouldn't want to go live in a home that was labeled a portal to demons. That sounds absolutely horrific. And what happened is, you may have heard Zach Baggins. He's the host of Ghost Adventures. To be honest, it shows a hoot. I've watched it. I don't know if I necessarily believe it, but the story is still creepy, so don't get hung up on that. But in 2014, after this whole incident that I'm going to tell you about, Zach actually said that this is one of the creepiest places he's ever been, and it was just, he could not explain it. He said everyone on his team was absolutely terrified, and he purchased the property because he was so infatuated with it for only $35,000 in 2014. And it creeped him out so much that 2 years later, he had that bad boy demolished because, like it seems, I think it's a portal to demons. I don't know why you'd want to sit on that. I wouldn't want to at all. I'd be running in the opposite direction. Going back to Zach, he said about this house, quote,
"Something was inside that house that had the ability to do things that I have never seen before. Things that others carrying the highest form of credibility couldn't explain either."
He told the Indy Star this in 2016.
And he said there was something there that was very dark, yet highly intelligent and powerful.
Crazy. Okay, so let's go. Let's get into the story. The home was purchased by a woman named Latoya Ammons in 2011. And Miss Ammons and her 3 children lived there from 2011 to 2012 because weird shit started to happen, and then they got the hell out. And then your guy Zach came in, I think, and bought it sometime after that. She moves into this house, and she said immediately, practically overnight, their lives were thrown into absolute chaos. And what's creepy about this is that everything that went on in this house was documented in over 1,000 papers that were filled out by cops, psychologists, people on the scene. And so this is all documented, has not been able to have been disproved. What's wrong with me? Yeah, nobody could say that this was fake, and a lot of people involved, including the cops and the psychologists and the social workers, because eventually CPS was called, they really all said that, like, they didn't think this woman was doing anything. They think that this house was actually haunted. And again, all of it was documented, so this isn't some made-up story, which makes it even creepier in my opinion. So Ammon said that the month after she moved in, this stuff started to happen right away. She said it was like the dead of winter, and it's in Indiana, and I've been to Indiana in the dead of winter, and it is freezing. I'm talking so cold that I actually got really drunk one night and was wearing like a big jacket, and I was still cold. And when you get drunk, you're usually not that cold. So I mean, that's the cold we're dealing with. It's probably a bad example. But anyways, so she said she moves in and it's the dead of winter, so it's freezing. And she said the front porch was filled with flies. Like, we're talking like hundreds, thousands of flies that would not leave. And she said her and her kids, they killed all the flies, and immediately all of them would come back. There was nothing dead. There's nothing, grimy going on. They just wouldn't leave this front porch alone, which is pretty weird because flies don't do that, especially in the winter. Like, I mean, they do it, but not in the winter. It just doesn't happen. So she said,
quote, "We killed them and killed them and killed them, but they kept coming back. The flies just would not quit."
I mean, I guess they're really persistent, so I give them that. Her mother, Rosa Campbell, was also involved during all of this, and she said that there was something bizarre going on. This was not normal. Next, what happened is the 2 women, so the mom and the daughter, they said that they started to hear footsteps coming from the basement and creaking doors at night, just nonstop every night, even though no one was there. No one was coming in and out. There was nothing in the basement, and no one ever that was down there. They would check, just nothing there. So there's these weird, mysterious sounds like the perfect setup to a horror movie. Exactly. Something weird is going on. I get it. I agree. Okay, this is where it gets really bad. So the 3 kids, she had 3 kids, or has, so they're 7, 9, and 12 years old. And they started to become really affected by whatever type of demonic shit was in this house. And it started around 2 a.m. on March 10th, 2012. Campbell basically said she woke up to screams of her 12-year-old granddaughter levitating above her bed. That's right, like full-on exorcist mode, raising up, chilling over the bed, and just, that's not, you know when you see that you are running away. I don't even care if it's my daughter. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Like, I'd obviously be really terrified, but like, I would be really, really scared seeing that. I don't know what I would do. I would actually immediately call both a rabbi and a priest. Yeah, I think I'm Jewish, so I'd get some of the Jewish exorcism going on, and then also maybe like a Catholic priest getting some action going on, and then just double team whatever's going on in there. That's what I would do immediately. But yeah, so her daughter started levitating, absolutely terrifying. She was telling the Indie Star, who she reported this to, she said,
I thought, what was going on? Why is this happening?
She felt completely out of control, didn't know what to do. I mean, her daughter's freaking levitating above her bed. Okay, then it gets even worse, obviously. On other occasions, she said that her children's eyes started to bulge out and they would speak in these really deep demonic
voices.
Again, classic textbook possession. Also like The Exorcist. She said she didn't even recognize them at some points. They were just completely not themselves. And what's even creepier is that her younger son then started to sit in his closet and talk to an imaginary friend who wasn't there and just was engaged for hours and hours, almost like in a trance, talking to this person who wasn't there. Yeah, that's a bad, bad, bad sign. I don't know what I would do as a mother with this one. Her middle son, he said that he would just keep describing to her what it felt like to be murdered. He would just describe in like explicit detail what it felt like being killed. And I mean, he's 12 years old. That's absolutely terrifying. Maybe if you believe in like past lives, which I kind of do, I don't know, with all the other stuff going on, I think either he was experiencing something from one of those demons or the demons were telling him, and I don't like that at all. I'm not a fan of that, and it's bad. So then stuff is getting so crazy. Obviously this woman and her mother, so their grandma, they have 3 young kids, and stuff was getting so out of control that Child Protective Services were called. And they basically were called to investigate Ammons for possible child abuse, and a case manager named Valerie Washington was assigned to interview the family at a hospital in the midst of all of this. And so the Indie Star is the one reporting all of this. They basically cited exactly what Washington wrote in her report, and this is really creepy. She said that during the interview that the 7-year-old, the youngest one who would sit and talk to the ghost in the closet, creepy, he got a really weird grin on his face when she was talking to him. Oh, I don't like this at all. I feel like I'm gonna have a nightmare tonight. Oh, this isn't good. I need to look up if they made a horror movie off of this, because they should if they haven't already. Because he got a really weird grin on his face that really terrified her because it didn't seem like natural or in line with even like what they were talking about or in line with this cute little kid. It was just creepy, and she was really scared. I think she wasn't expecting that because I think they basically all went in and they're like, oh, these kids are being abused, there's something bad going on here, and then they kind of found the polar opposite. She then went on to say, and when I say I have chills, I mean I have chills. She said about the little boy.
He then, quote, walked up the wall, flipped over, and stood there.
And another registered nurse named Willie Lee Walker, she also witnessed this incident, and she said, quote, there's no way he could have done that. So she saw it as well, and they were like, that's not normal. There's no way this kid wasn't in gymnastics. Even if he was, still doesn't sound normal to me. You got 2 people now who were called to basically call out the mother and the grandmother, but they're realizing, hey, maybe they're not lying and there's some weird shit going on. Okay, so Washington then later confirmed to the authorities that the child also glided backwards on the floor, wall, and ceiling. So we're talking like the Exorcist thing when they're like doing that creepy crawly thing and they go up on the wall and they like bend and weird things. I hate that. That creeps me out. I don't like that. Anytime I see that creepy crawly thing, goodbye. I don't like that. And that's what they were doing. So obviously CPS is like, hey, I don't know what the hell's going on. The doctors and nurses are like, hey, I don't know what's going on. The police are like, I don't know what's going on. They ruled out child abuse. They ruled out any sort of like mental illness or sickness. And so Ammons, really desperate, she decides to call up Reverend Michael Maginot late in the spring of 2012. So this is right before they moved out. And she basically requested that he perform multiple exorcisms. And it was his idea once he saw what was going on. Because he's like, yeah, this is not good. And there's obviously something very demonic in this house and we need to exorcise it. And he is the one who said that this house was a, quote, portal to demons. So he said there was a bunch of stuff going on. It wasn't just one ghost or one demon. This was like an actual wormhole portal, which makes this even more terrifying. It's not just like a few haunted people who were staying around, hanging out because they didn't want them to sell their house. This was like the opening of just just demonic activity. I don't like that at all. Okay, so today, obviously, some people still remain skeptical about this because, I mean, we all got, people, it's very hard to believe. But what's interesting, and again, this is all documented in 1,000 pages, is that the then Gary police captain, whose name is Charles Austin, he admitted that basically he is not skeptical and there was 100% some demonic stuff going on there. He said he's a believer after seeing this because he cannot explain it, and that's when the family basically pieced out. They exorcised the house. I guess the kids were doing better and they just quickly moved out, and I think that's a great idea. And she said, so how this ends is basically Ammons came out and she said, quote, "When you hear something like this, don't assume it's not real because I've lived it and it is real." And like I said, that house has been demolished after ghost adventurer Zach Baggins, what's wrong with me? Zach Baggins, yeah. He bought the house. Obviously, he was creeped out. I should probably go watch that episode, but he sold the house and it's been demolished. I don't know if demolishing it wipes out that portal. Like if it were me, I'd probably never build a house on top of that or move into a house that was built on top of that. And I hope the realtor discloses that this was the portal from hell, because I'd be pissed if I moved in and found out it was and they didn't tell me. Okay, that's it. I'll be back with some more crazy stories. See you guys soon.